Good morning. It's still morning. It is still morning. Thank you all for being here. There's a couple of things that we want to discuss today, some initiatives that we're going to cover. One is reinvesting in our neighborhoods, and the other we want to talk about our efforts to safeguard our city water supply. But we are going to kick off this meeting first with Councilmember Levanta Williams to talk about, pretty neat initiative with our neighborhoods. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Councilmember Levanta Williams, and you can introduce anyone you want to bring up.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll start out by seeing if they have questions as well. But I am so excited about the initiative that we are starting next week as we look into some of our neighborhoods. I'd like to invite anyone that is interested to attend a special neighborhood reinvestment meeting to share ideas on how we can strengthen the market for revitalization, reinvestment, and infill development in the central northeast area, neighborhood area of I-135 and West Hillside between 9th Street and 13th Street. So I'm so excited about this. The meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February the 23rd, 2016, from 5:30 until 7 at the Madison Avenue Apartments Community Room, and that is at 1004 North Madison here in Wichita. This meeting is an opportunity for the interested public and neighborhood residents, city and elected officials, property and business owners, and institutional stakeholders to discuss issues, concerns, opportunities, trends, and new ideas and approaches on how to promote neighborhood rebuilding and reinvestment efforts in this area. And that's a very important point as we look at that, because so many of our community neighborhoods are older neighborhoods, and we've lost many houses. So to reinvest in those neighborhoods is very important. Please join us for food. I did say food, and conversation on this important initiative for our city, and especially it's important to the A. Price Woodard and Murdoch Neighborhood Associations. It's supported by the United States Environmental Protection Agency's Building Blocks for Sustainability Communities program. Wichita is one of 20 communities across the United States that were selected and invited to participate in this technical assistance program in 2016. And that's another fact that makes it so special because of the numbers 1 out of 20. Neighborhood reinvestment experts from the Renaissance Planning Firm out of Charlottesville, Virginia, will facilitate the community meeting discussion. This particular area of Wichita was selected as the pilot for this technical assistance because it meets the opportunity area criteria outlined in the newly approved Wichita-Sedgwick County Community Investments Plan of 2015 through 2035. If this pilot initiative proves successful, the lessons that we learn will be applied to other appropriate areas and neighborhoods in this city as part of the implementation of the Wichita Urban Infill Strategy contained in the new Community Investments Plan. And there's been quite a bit of conversation about the Community Investment Plan. So this is showing our community as well that it's not just a plan that's going to sit on the shelf. This is going to be a plan that we are going to work on implementing and making sure that our neighborhoods understand that we are there for them as well. So thank you, and I'll turn it back over to our mayor, our illustrious mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams, and I'm sure we'll have some questions here at the end. I will tell you that often we are not judged by our best neighborhoods. We're often judged by the rest of the city, and I think we have to continue to work on those issues that involve all of Wichita. It's no secret, Councilmember Williams can be found often driving her district and beyond, looking at issues that are out there that exist and working hard to improve her council district along with Wichita. And so I'm looking forward to what this might bring for all of us, and it's a great initiative. Understandably, there's been a lot of concern and questions about water supply, especially what's going on around the country, specifically safe drinking water and lead in the drinking water. And so we want to talk about some of the things that we're doing here in Wichita to ensure that we have a safe, reliable, clean water supply for our citizens. Certainly, the city of Wichita is very mindful of a number of threats that exist to our water supply and the way that the water is delivered to our customers. Across the nation, many cities are grappling with these challenges. Wichita recognized that many years ago and started taking precautionary measures to combat some of those exposures, especially lead exposure. I think it's also important to understand we're a little bit unique. We have two separate water supplies, Cheney Lake and the Equus-beds, both that are great sources of water. Some of the challenges that cities have is when they have to pull nearly all of their water from the river, and we don't have that same challenge. Although we pull some, it doesn't pose the same challenge that we have since we have such good, reliable water sources that are very clean and comparative to what other cities around the country deal with. We treat through a process designed to protect the water from any lead that it might be exposed to during the distribution system. This includes an addition of phosphate to prevent the release of lead from any of the lead pipes that water might come in contact with, and the addition of calcium to provide a thin protective coating to the pipes. Essentially, the treatment process makes the water less corrosive in order to prevent any metals being released from the pipes. No lead main lines exist within the city of Wichita. We have eliminated all of our main lines that were previously held with lead in them. A limited number of lead service connections do exist with the system. In 2007, 1,102 lead services were located. The city has brought that number down to less than 180 today. We expect the remaining lead service lines to be replaced by the end of 2016. So at that point in time, all of the lead lines in the city will be removed. Once these service connections have been entirely replaced, the possibility exists that private line from the meter to the property is a lead pipe or possibly plumbing and fixtures within the property. Citizens who are concerned about potential exposure to lead are encouraged to visit the EPA website, which provides information regarding the lead and copper rule, as well as how to protect against lead exposure. The city conducts a lead and copper study every 3 years as mandated by the EPA. The EPA requires that 9 out of 10 households tested have less than 15 parts per billion of lead. The last such study was conducted in 2015 and the city met the EPA's requirement. Additionally, the city tests these levels weekly to ensure that we will meet the requirement on the triannual basis. Citizens may also contact the water treatment lab, who will conduct lead testing for free. I think that's important to understand. If you have concerns in your house, you can take a sampling and we will test it for free. Simply call them at 269-4770 and they will send you a testing kit and instructions. Once completed, you return the sample to the lab and they will notify you of the results. So I think those are obviously two very important initiatives to update you on. At this point in time, we have Alan King from our Public Works and our new Housing Director, John Hall, that is here to answer any questions you might have. We'll let the latecomers come first. Any questions? Really?
Was there a time when we had a lot of lead pipes as part of our water delivery system?
There were some older mainline pipes, the ones that run down the street that had leaded joints, and they have since been replaced. But really the biggest concern after that was the pipe that goes from the main line out on the street up to the water meter. That's the service. and we've significantly reduced those. We'll have them gone altogether by the end of this year. But even when, as the mayor said, even when those are completely eliminated, the greatest source of lead potentially is in the copper solder joints of the plumbing within the house itself. And also fixtures sometimes will have lead in them. So even with the city eliminating all of its lead pipes, there still exists the potential for lead contamination if the city doesn't do a good job in treating its water in the proper way.
Can you tell us what those tests are like? I mean, obviously the once every 3 years is the EPA requirement, but you guys do more than what's required, it sounds like.
Yeah, really, we go to the point of use, which is not just the end of where our responsibility ends at the water meter. We actually go into people's homes with their permission, obviously, and gather water. Penny, you got a kit there that you can hold up for them, and basically they pour the water into a container, and then we send it off to the lab, and then the lab actually tests the amount of lead that's in the water. We do that just to make sure that we're keeping our treatment in the right kind of levels. And also we offer it as a service, as the mayor said, that if anybody has any concerns about lead in their water, give us a call and we'll get you a kit and we'll perform the test for free.
That's good stuff, Mr. King. Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
I may have a question about the initiative. What kind of discussions is it going to involve? It's going to involve sources of funding, meaning where to find grants, where the grants are coming from. Is it going to be talking about zoning issues with trying to move in businesses in addition to residential as part of the improvement money? Can you give us any more detail on that?
And I'm going to turn this over to John Hall, Housing, and Dave Barber. Dave has been working on this, and I think Dave would be able to answer that as well.
Yeah, in terms of the technical assistance program, it involves a process of self-assessment. So we've gone through our own self-assessment exercise in advance of the visit next week with the consulting team. And then they're going to take us through a process of discovery, opportunity identification. Then we're going to work with some key stakeholders on Wednesday in the working session portion of the workshop, where we will identify opportunities and strategies for private and public sector reinvestment that might bring about the kind of outcomes that we're looking for here. This is a...
What kind of outcomes are you?
Well, we're wanting to see reinvestment in the mature neighborhoods of our community. And we need to know what it's going to take to increase the current level of investment that's going on and to accelerate additional reinvestment in some of these older neighborhoods. And some of it involves public infrastructure, but a lot of it involves private investment, marketplace investment, to create a product, particularly a residential or commercial product that people will want to participate in. So, we really don't know at this point.
When you say people would want to participate, are you talking investors or residents?
Yes, both. We need to create decent housing, attractive housing. We have affordable housing in many respects, but one might argue, is it meeting the market need in terms of desirability, functionality? There's neighborhood issues, safety issues. There's a whole gamut of what creates an attractive environment for people to reinvest in. So we're going to look at all aspects, and we've got this consulting team coming out of Virginia that's going to share a lot of their experience working with other communities where they've been successfully been able to get the private sector, particularly, to start reinvesting and rebuilding some of the older neighborhoods in communities across the country. So we don't know what the solutions are. We're going to look at opportunities and then find out what we need to do and what's going to work here in Wichita, because every community is different. And we have a pretty good feel of who we are as a community. So we're anxious and looking forward to some positive outcomes. And we're going to work with a team of community stakeholders. We're going to have builders, community representatives, institutional representatives, all gathered together and talk about what are the challenges that we need to overcome in this community. So we'll just have to see what the outcomes are.
And I just
Okay,
Sure,
can,
no, if you want to add
can I just add a piece here? So we're very excited about the Building Blocks initiative. It's an infill initiative, and as many of you know, when we do neighborhood revitalization, part of our strategy is to do replacement housing for vacant lots or dilapidated homes. And so when we do the infill development, it helps to stabilize communities. It pours dollars back into the neighborhoods to help stabilize them and get them growing again. And so some of the things that we have been doing at the Housing and Community Services Department, we've already been addressing infill, but this particular initiative and focus that EPA is providing to us will help us to be more strategic. We will perform market analysis in the planning process. We'll have the community engagement, the input there. And so once the plan is fully developed and adopted, we at the Housing and Community Services Department will implement the plan. We will align it with the comprehensive housing policy, the community investments plan. Several plans exist. And so one of my key objectives is to integrate these plans and to implement in areas that have been identified as opportunities for growth from both public and private sector. But we will look at leveraging all sources of funds to implement.
And then, what is the level, or at what point, or how big is the city's participation in this going to be, or is that still to be determined?
I think it's still to be determined, but the city is going to be very involved in this. This is an initiative that we have been looking at and weighing how we can better serve our communities that are in the aging communities especially. So we're looking forward to being very involved because this is going to bring back the neighborhood feeling. In some of the communities, there were so many gaps in some of our blocks because of having to tear down and rebuild. So I'm looking for an opportunity for us to rebuild our communities and bring back neighborhoods, strong neighborhoods.
And I would assume part of that is because a big part of revitalization, I would assume, is you get more lots back on the tax roll.
And you're exactly right, because one of the things that I've already asked from one of the chotos that's out there is what was the property value of that particular neighborhood before you started, and now that you have infilled all of the homes in that particular neighborhood, what is the property value now? So I think that we'll be able to see an increase in the property value. We're already seeing that in some of the areas that we have revitalized. So this is just going to add on to it. I'm very, very excited because demolishing homes is not something I enjoy doing. I just had to do one of those, and it just brings tears to your eyes. So this is something that's going to bring smiles to faces.
Again, thank you. And I want to add to that a little bit. I don't want us to neglect or negate the fact that we have great community partners that have been out there literally building homes one block at a time in our city. But we want to go beyond that. This is bigger than what we are achieving through Habitat or Mennonite Housing or any of those folks that have done tremendous work in our city at literally building blocks of new homes at a time for those that need those. But we want to do something in a certainly a larger fashion that brings our communities back that we can be proud of. And so we're hoping that this is an initiative that will help do that. We don't know what the end result will be at this point or what the level of participation will be. We're just starting into the process, as you heard, kind of on a trial basis. So we're optimistic that it'll provide the kind of results that we're looking for. So, yes.
One of the things that we look at also is that each of our districts have that little pocket within them that could use some sustainable help. And so we're not looking at just this particular area. Right now, we'll gather all the information we need and apply that to the rest of the Wichita community. So I'm very excited about that. But also, as we are looking at this particular initiative and project, we have a bill that's in the legislators right now that is talking about blight. So we're very excited. We're hoping that this particular bill goes through. And so it's time for us to address some of the issues that we have within our communities.
Thank you all.